What if the next major shift in global influence, not in Washington, Beijing, or Brussels, began with a handshake in a private dining room in Switzerland? What if a place long ignored on the world map suddenly entered the calculations of global decision-makers, not because of war, not because of headlines, but because of silent strategic relevance? This is Davos 2026. And that place is Somaliland. This was not a newsflash, it was a signal. You're watching Horn Lens, elite analysis of the Horn of Africa, the Red Sea, and the strategic forces shaping tomorrow's world. We go beyond headlines into structural geopolitics. At the January 2026 World Economic Forum in Davos, something unexpected happened. The President of the Republic of Somaliland, unrecognized by most of the world for over 3 decades, was in rooms where global actors decide relevance. He met with Israel's President Isaac Herzog and Eric Trump, senior executive of the Trump Organization, advocating for recognition and investment. For more than 30 years, Somaliland governed itself independently. Elections, security, civil institutions, yet remained outside formal international recognition, functioning like a state, without being treated like one. Yet the world looked away, clinging to the idea of a unified Somalia. But geography is patient, and Somaliland's long coastline sits on one of the world's most critical maritime choke points. On December 26, 2025, Israel became the first United Nations member state to formally recognize Somaliland, a historic breakthrough met with global controversy. The African Union condemned the move. Somalia's government declared it null and void. Arab and Islamic states expressed strong opposition. Yet strategically, Somaliland's profile in global discussions skyrocketed. Davos does not announce power. It calibrates it. Inside these rooms, global leaders ask, who matters next? Presence for a leader from Somaliland is not decoration. It is strategic validation. Davos didn't create Somaliland's relevance, it revealed it. Modern influence is measured not by volume, but by whether global systems, economic, diplomatic, logistical, see you as central. Somaliland sits beside one of the world's most critical maritime corridors, the Gulf of Aden and southern approaches to the Red Sea. Nearly 10% of global trade flows through these waters each year: energy, food, industrial supply chains. At the center of this geography is Berbera Port, connecting Africa to the Middle East and global markets. Geography is not background. Geography is leverage. Somaliland emerges now due to 3 converging forces. 1. Rising instability across the Red Sea corridor. 2. Strategic realignments linking Africa and the Middle East. 3. Accelerating global demand for secure trade routes. Together, they pull strategic territories and the actors who govern them into the global spotlight. The world was about to be reminded that geography, not paperwork, shapes destiny. The World Economic Forum in Davos is a theater of power where informal conversations can outweigh formal treaties. In January 2026, among the global heavyweights was a new face, President Abdurrahman Mohamed Abdullahi of Somaliland. His presence was a carefully orchestrated signal. He was invited in his own right. He met with technology executives about Berbera's digital infrastructure and with logistics companies about expanding the Berbera Corridor. Security analysts discussed maritime safety in the Gulf of Aden with him. Each meeting was a quiet act of recognition, even if formal diplomatic papers remained unsigned. The optics were powerful. The president of Somaliland in conversation with world leaders. For a state diplomatically invisible for decades, this was a profound change. Somaliland was now a player on the global chessboard. These interactions were driven by strategic needs, not sentiment. The world economy depends on safe passage of goods, and the Red Sea's security is a global issue. In Davos, Somaliland was seen not as a breakaway republic, but as a potential solution to a growing strategic problem. A stable partner on a critical coastline. In the pragmatic environment of Davos, utility is the ultimate currency. Somaliland, it turned out, was very useful. Its quiet debut on the world stage was no accident. The world was ready to listen. To understand Somaliland's position in 2026, look back to 1991. As Somalia collapsed, Somaliland's leaders declared independence, citing their brief sovereignty in 1960. The world did not agree, and for 3 decades, Somaliland built a state in isolation. With little outside aid, it relied on its diaspora and local taxation. It blended traditional clan consultation with modern democracy, holding free and fair elections. Somaliland created its own army, police, and coast guard. This isolation forged a strong sense of self-sufficiency. Somalilanders secured their territory against terrorism and piracy. While southern Somalia struggled, Somaliland became an island of peace. No country extended formal recognition, but Somaliland focused on stability and business. It courted investment for its port and presented itself as a partner, not a problem. 30 years of stability became its most compelling argument. The world was about to discover the value of that capability. The first domino fell not from the West, but from the Middle East. In late 2025, Israel formally recognized Somaliland, a calculated move to build alliances and counter rivals. The Jerusalem Declaration broke the international consensus. Mogadishu condemned the move. Some Arab nations voiced disapproval, but Gulf states stayed quiet. For the US and Europe, Israel's move created a new reality. The logjam was broken. Diplomats began to discuss a 2-state reality for the Somali people. Israel's recognition gave others political cover to engage openly with Somaliland. The focus shifted from legal arguments to strategic realities. Israel's decision was not the cause of Somaliland's rise, but the catalyst. The world could no longer ignore the 30-year-old reality. A new chapter had begun in the Horn of Africa. A map of the Horn of Africa tells a story of geography and necessity. Landlocked Ethiopia, with over 120 million people, depended on Djibouti's port, creating vulnerability. Ethiopia needed an alternative: the port of Berbera in Somaliland. The Berbera Corridor, backed by UAE investment, connected Ethiopia's heartland to the sea. Berbera's location on the Gulf of Aden, along the Asia-Europe shipping route, made it invaluable. For navies and traders, Berbera offered a stable strategic hub. Global powers took notice, not for political reasons, but for the reality of Somaliland's coastline. The US, China, and others all had a stake in the security of these waters. The Berbera Corridor bypassed choke points and rivalries. In geopolitics, facts on the ground matter more than diplomatic protocols. Why did this shift happen in 2026 and not sooner? The international focus on stabilizing Somalia had yielded diminishing returns. By the mid-2020s, a pragmatic approach was needed. The Red Sea region grew more contested, with Gulf rivalries and a growing Chinese presence. The war in Yemen highlighted the need for reliable partners. Somaliland's stability offered a compelling alternative. Ethiopia's growth made the Berbera Corridor essential. The flow of goods demanded a stable legal and political framework. Somaliland's patient diplomacy and state-building paid off. The interests of powerful nations finally aligned with Somaliland's reality. In the 21st century, legitimacy is earned through utility, not just recognition. Somaliland is the prime example. 30 years of seeking legitimacy through action, not just argument. Major powers engaged with Somaliland because it offered stability and a strategic location. Its port put it on the map of global logistics, not just politics. In an era of great power competition, reliability is a premium commodity. The international system quietly began to operate on a functional basis. Somaliland proved sovereignty through effective governance. Its importance was acknowledged because it became indispensable. Somaliland's emergence was not dramatic, but gradual, a slow accumulation of presence. It began with DP World cranes in Berbera, continued with Ethiopian trade, and culminated in Davos. Importance is established by who is in the room, not just what is said. For years, Somaliland was absent from the world's mental maps. By 2026, it was a stable coastline, a trade corridor, a reliable ally. Its presence on functional maps outweighed its absence from political ones. Geography, trade, and security quietly reshaped the political order. Somaliland did not need headlines to become important, just stability and patience. A new piece was placed on the board, not by force, but by convergence of interests. Somaliland had become too important to ignore.